France 24's Brussels correspondent Dave Keating joins me now for a bit more on this. First of all, Dave, tell us a bit more about reaction from Brussels today.
Yeah, the Commission isn't saying much so far. They're not saying whether they're going to appeal the decision. They're not even saying how long it will take for them to make that decision. They say they need to study the result. But we did get a statement, a written statement, from Vice President Margrethe Vestager, who is in charge of competition at the Commission. And she was essentially accusing the court of double standards. She notes that the court has come out with 3 decisions on this matter. 2 of them, this one and a decision about Starbucks in the Netherlands, they rejected the Commission asking for tax money back. But in a 3rd one involving Luxembourg and Fiat, they agreed with the Commission. And so there does seem to be some inconsistency from the court, at least in the Commission's view. And now this is concerning a 2016 ruling from the European Commission in which they said that the very low rate of tax that Ireland was charging Apple for its global profits that it was funneling through Ireland constituted illegal state aid on the Irish government's part. The Commission is responsible for making sure that there is fair economic play in the European Union. And so that's why the Commission came in and said, this is disadvantaging other EU companies, and so we can't allow it, and asked for 13 billion euros to be clawed back plus interest. This ruling essentially invalidates that request. It would save Apple 13 billion euros plus interest if the Commission doesn't appeal it. So we'll see whether or not that happens.
Now, Dave, this is just bad timing for the EU all around, as it was also, or is also, unveiling a new crackdown on tax avoidance today.
Yeah, right now, as we speak, the European Commission is unveiling this big tax package. So this timing was terrible for them because right now the press conference is going on and journalists are really only asking about this Apple decision, even though right at the outset of the press conference, the Commission spokesperson said they wouldn't be answering questions about it. That hasn't stopped journalists from asking. This larger strategy, it's actually quite big and involves a lot of areas. It is about corporate tax avoidance, with the Commission estimating that 35 billion euros is lost from corporate tax avoidance, actually corporate tax fraud each year in the EU, but it concerns also individual taxes. It's looking at how to regularize online platform taxes. So let's say individuals who sell on Amazon or eBay, actually making things simpler for them so they only have to file in one country at one time. And that also would eliminate the tax avoidance that some people are doing there. So it's a really big package, and it's part of the Commission's overall effort to crack down on tax avoidance in Europe. And this is a drive that's really put the EU into conflict with the US government going back to the Obama administration. Actually, when this decision came out in 2016, the Obama administration complained about it, saying that the EU was acting unilaterally. It wasn't working in a global framework to combat tax avoidance. The EU's response is that there is no global framework, that things just aren't moving fast enough at global level, at G7 level or G20, for all countries in the world to work together in tackling tax avoidance. So the EU, if there's no global effort, has to go alone. So this is in a way also a victory for the US government, which had opposed this decision. And Donald Trump has said that Vestager herself doesn't like US companies. He's portrayed her as going after US companies. Vestager says, look, it just happens that all of these large global multinationals, particularly in the tech space, happen to be based in the US. And that's really where they're focusing their efforts, because it's these companies that they feel like are really doing some of the biggest tax avoidance, these large tech companies that have some freedom about where they want to say that they're based. So this is going to be a long-running story well after this. The vice president signaled today she's not going to slow down her crusade against tax avoidance because of this setback today, but it is a major setback for the Commission because if the court continues to rule this way, and there are 2 more cases pending at the EU's High Court about this, it could invalidate the EU's whole strategy about tax avoidance.